everyone has to start somewhere. Little by little, change happens. But not only that, when change happens little by little, it becomes a lifestyle change that you take with you from here on out. It's not a quick fix. It's not this diet fad where you see a lot of women get on this diet fad and you see them lose the weight really quick, but then a year later, it's all back on. Number one, because they didn't actually heal the root cause of their hormone imbalance, their gut health issues, and they didn't heal their mindset. They didn't heal the things that actually were causing the weight gain in the first place. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. You are listening to Christian Wellness for the Weary Woman, where we talk about how to heal from burnout, fatigue, and emotional overwhelm, all from a faith-based perspective, a Christ-centered perspective, a biblical perspective, and because that's what Jesus does. He heals us inwardly so that our body can heal physically. A lot of times we get it backwards. We want to think that if I can lose the weight, if I can heal my physical body, then I'll feel better. But the truth is, when you begin to work on your mental health, when you begin to work on your mindset, and when you begin to work on digging through those emotional traumas and all of the things that have kept you stuck for a long time, then you begin to recognize that the mental health issue and the nutritional pieces go hand in hand. You cannot heal one without the other. So in today's episode, I really want to talk about mindset. I want to dig into things, practical things that you can do to begin shifting your mindset towards a mindset of healing. And it actually starts with, you may have heard the phrase before, fake it till you make it. And that's okay. If you have to fake it till you make it, then there still is a part of you that is envisioning the woman that you want to become. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to share a couple of stories with you that kind of shifted my perspective when I've walked through different phases of life. And then currently what I'm trying to do, right? We're always wanting to reach some sort of a goal. So this concept can apply to any area of your life and any phase of your life, and begin to embrace a mindset like this and a vision like this for your life, so that you are always envisioning yourself as though you've already reached that goal. And when you start to become that person, you will reach that goal a lot easier. So one thing that I did whenever I was walking through just one of the hardest seasons of life, I felt like family had completely abandoned me. We were going through our own grief of just family dynamics had completely changed, and it wasn't something that I envisioned or saw coming, but it was definitely something that had to happen. And as I was going through that season of grief that lasted way longer than I ever wanted it to, there was something that just kind of fell into my lap, I guess. But I started learning about fingernail polish. Y'all may have heard me share this story before, but I learned the history behind it. And basically, in a nutshell, it just represented royalty in ancient cultures, and that certain colors would represent like higher class, other colors would represent middle class or lower class. And as I began to paint my fingernails, I just would declare that I am victorious. I would create this I am statement, because that was the word that I felt like the Lord was really revealing to me. Like, you are victorious. You will come out of this. You will come out in victory, right? Not just victory, but like victorious means like there's a celebration too. You are coming out of this victorious. There's so much more to it than just you're going to come out healed. You're going to come out fine. You're going to come out. No, I'm going to come out of this victorious. And not only that, I would like make this symbol to myself, or I held a women's conference, and it was like the second or third year in a row of this women's conference that I hosted. And so I came up with Embrace was like the title of the conference each year, but then there would be a different theme. And so this year the theme was Embrace Victory, and it was like told all the women, like, paint your fingernails, and like we're going to hold up the victory sign, and we're going to declare over ourselves that we are victorious. And that was something that allowed me to shift my mindset from the victim mentality to a victorious mentality. And I was envisioning myself, although this wasn't near as purposeful as how I do it now, but it was still something like let's apply the practical to the prophetic, because sometimes the prophetic gets a little bit too out there and a little bit too unpractical. But if we can apply some practical principles to the prophetic is simply this: shifting your perspective. It's someone coming into a very weary situation and speaking life, or really it's God coming in through people to speak life into your situation. And it shifts the perspective from all of the bad doom and gloom to God's got this. And now I have faith, and God's speaking into my situation. It is supernatural, but it's also all about a practical perspective shift. And that's really the point. If we want to just put a simple term on what the prophetic does, is that it shifts the mindset into something positive, into something godly, so that our mind becomes aligned with Christ. And that's where we can stay trapped so many times. That's the reason that our body experiences a lot of physical symptoms, is because we are not aligned with Christ in our way of thinking and all of those things. And it may not even be a huge trauma. It may just simply be something that's not aligned with God's way of thinking. And we have to shift that mindset into being aligned with Him, so that our physical body is not reacting and coming down with sickness, illness, disease, trauma, overwhelm, fatigue, and hitting burnout. And so that was one of the ways that when I was going through something, I began to shift my mindset. And then a couple of years ago, I was working with a business coach. Maybe this was only actually a year ago. I was working with a business coach, and I was really frustrated with my website, and I really wanted to create a course, but I could not decide on what type of platform to create the course in. And so I was really stuck there. And she said, Cassie, if you want to be a CEO and build a business, you are going to have to make decisions like a CEO and start building a business. And so basically it was like, you're going to have to bite the bullet. You're going to have to spend the money that you don't have, and you're going to have to just make a decision one way or the other, because you can't move forward without making this decision. And so that really shifted my perspective. Like, Cassie, you've got to start making decisions as though you're already a CEO. And so I started envisioning myself as a CEO. I started envisioning myself as the woman of a successful business, and it boosted my confidence. It allowed me to get out of places that I had been stuck. It allowed me to start making a lot better decisions, faster decisions, not get stuck. But the point is that it shifted my mindset into even decisions that I'm making today. And so one of the things I'm doing now is getting dressed every day. When I was stuck in burnout, okay, and this is very easy to do, you have low cellular energy, you have low motivation, you lack the ability to see help around you, and you're overwhelmed by very small tasks that otherwise would be very simple for you to do. But because your body lacks the physical energy to meet the demands of the day, like your physical energy kind of goes to here, but you need, in order to just do the very basic things in life, your energy levels need to be at least here, especially if you have small kids at home. And this is where a lot of times we find ourselves crying for no reason. And it's okay. I've totally been there before. I was there for many years and can still get there. Okay. Can still get there with 5 kids at home, two of those being toddlers, 2 that are almost teenagers, and being needed all the time can be very hard. And even if your energy levels are up, you can still find yourself in that place of like, I can't do this. I just need to sit and cry. But it begins to feel frustrating when you find yourself there over and over and over again. And so I'm here for you if you say that you're tired of it and you're ready to heal, because that's what I do in my Rooted and Restored Wellness program. I work with you one-on-one for a 9-month period, because that's what it takes. It took you 30 plus years to get to the place that you are now, it's not going, healing doesn't happen overnight, but there are lots of things that we can do to get quick wins, which when I say quick wins, what took you 30 years to get here, we can reverse some of those symptoms within 2 to 3 months, 60 to 90 days. And then imagine in a 9-month period how much more healing you will have had in that time. And so reach out to me if that sounds like something that you want to do, something that you decide for yourself that I can't do this anymore. I have to take care of myself. That's what this program is about. We work on mindset. We work on spiritual issues, because a lot of times this comes with like feeling guilty about when our mineral levels are so depleted and our body is so depleted. We do things out of nowhere. We find ourselves all of a sudden feeling angry, enraged. We lash out at people, our husband, our children, and then we feel guilty. But on top of that, as Christians, we go, oh my gosh, God saw that. I'm so sorry, God. Now we feel guilty. We're apologizing to God. We feel like God's disappointed in us. And so what do? We start doing things like, I better fast. I better read my Bible more. I better, and we're like trying to figure out ways that like we can relieve a lot of that guilt, because somehow we think that that's going to make God feel like he's pleased with us. But that is also a sign of our recognition that we don't see God as unconditional love, but it's also a deeper sign of a trauma wound that we need to work through. Okay. And it could even just be a lie that you've believed that you picked up in church. It could be just a religious mindset that's going on, but it always goes back to the fact that we don't see God as unconditional love. And so working through mindsets like that, because that creates stress in the body, and it's also not aligned with the way that Christ thinks. And so we work on mindset issues like that. We work on nutrition, and I offer hair tissue mineral analysis testing, which comes back always as abnormal. Okay. And that's not to say that I just work with clients who have always had an abnormal test, but it's a lot different from a blood test. You go get a blood test, and you have just normal or abnormal. And so many people's test results come back normal, and then they don't have any answers. The doctor's just like, well, it's normal, so I can't really give you any answers. There's nothing we can really work on. But with an HTMA test, there's always something that comes back that we can work on. There's never going to be, well, I don't know. Everything looks to be okay. So I'm not really sure. We could just, maybe let's work on this, or maybe let's work on that. No, I have definite answers of what we can work on nutritionally and emotionally, because on the HTMA test, we're not looking for normal ranges. We're looking for patterns. And so we're looking for stress patterns. We're looking for trauma patterns. We're looking for patterns of metabolism. We're looking for patterns of the sympathetic nervous system, and things that there's always an answer that comes back on the HTMA test. So I'll just put it that way. And then we don't work on protocols. We work on bio-individuality and coming up with a plan that works for you, not just nutritionally, but also emotionally, working on the inner healing that then trickles down into allowing you the space, the mental space, the emotional space, so that you can feel like you have the energy to change your nutrition plan and fit it all in. Because when you're in overwhelm and burnout, adding another thing on the list, like changing nutrition and diet and starting to cook differently, starting to buy differently, starting to look at different groceries, that takes mental energy. You have to do research. You have to figure out, what groceries can I buy now? How am I going to cook this new food? And so we lean into that very gently. That is not the first step that we look into, because it can be so overwhelming. And so if that is the thing that has held you back from trying to take care of your health, because you don't think that you can do the diet plan, because you can't. You don't need a diet. You need a nutritional, you need a therapeutic healing plan. And so cutting out certain foods is probably not going to be the best option for you. And following a strict diet is going to cause you to utterly fail. And so that is not what we do at Rooted and Restored Wellness. And so I just want to assure you of that if you have ever wondered what it's like. And of course, I offer a free clarity call where you can ask me all the questions, and we can talk about all the things that your fears are, or questions that you have for me, to make sure that you're getting your money's worth, right? Because I want to provide that for you to help you. I don't want to just collect your money. I actually want to provide transformation. And so I'm here for that. Okay, back onto what we were saying and talking about mindset and becoming, envisioning yourself as the woman you are becoming. Not just that you want to become, but do you believe in your mind that you are becoming her? And if you don't believe that right now, that's okay. I'm going to give you some steps at the end of this podcast episode that you can take with you and begin to implement becoming this woman. Not just wanting to become this woman, but becoming this woman, actually taking action steps to become her. Another example of this is that after I've gotten my energy back after these last few years, I have naturally, my body is waking up at about 4:30. Now that the time has changed, it was 5:30, but now it's about 4:30. I am waking up ready to go for the day. Like, I'm not mad at myself for waking up at 4:30, and I'm not counting the hours of sleep that I got anymore. Like, I've let that go. I used to, if my body woke up at that 4:30 hour, I was mad. I thought something was wrong with myself. And then I started counting. Well, I didn't go to bed till 10 o'clock. Did I get the 8 or 10 hours of sleep? Women need more sleep. I need more sleep during this time of my cycle than that time of my cycle. And it was very exhausting and it was not helpful. And it was this idea of we're all robots and we have to make sure we fit this checkbox, this list of things in order to make sure that we're actually healthy. But I did hear someone say this one day, and it helped me to let go of all the things. She was talking to someone else, but she said, maybe your body wants to get up that early. Maybe it's not a big deal. And that helped me. My body wasn't actually getting up at that time, but I just remember that and thinking like, ooh, I felt a relief in the room. And then shortly after, so it's been about 2 months now, and my energy levels have been very sustainable. I have not felt dips. I have not felt dips in my motivation. I have not felt dips in my desire to want to get up and do things. And so with that, like 4:30 hits and I'm looking at the clock like, ooh, what time did I wake up today? And it's like a total shift in perspective of how I used to wake up, angry and mad at myself and my body and my brain for waking up that early. And so now I just see it as an opportunity to be the person that I always wanted to be and desired to be. But I told myself, you just don't have the self-control. You just don't have the self-control to do it. That's just an area that, maybe you'll get there one day and maybe you won't. But it was this like still a negative mindset of basically you're just not good enough to be that morning person, right? In my head, I wanted to, but something in my body just didn't align. And so aligning my body and my mindset to be and become the healed woman I wanted to be by putting into practice all the nutritional things and changes that I knew that my body needed. I did those. I implemented those. I worked on those. I learned to not put too much pressure on myself if I got off of my therapeutic healing protocol. I don't know if I want to call it protocol or diet. I definitely don't want to use the word diet because it just represents constriction and restriction and a very restrictive mindset as well. And so a very like poverty driven mindset, right? Because in the garden, God pointed out to Adam and Eve, you can have all of this. You can have all of this. This is what your eyes can see. And so they saw what they could have, but it was when the enemy came in and said, this is what you can't have, that they were like, oh, I got to have that. So when you're implementing a diet or a protocol or whatever it is, you've got to take on that mentality of making sure you're not looking at what you can't have, because naturally, just like Adam and Eve, you're going to desire that thing and you're going to go back to that thing. And so it's extremely important that when you're doing something like this and you're healing the body, mindset is so important to remind yourself, but I can have all of this. This is what I can have. I'm not going to focus on what I can't have. This is what I can have. Okay. Shift your eyes, shift your perspective, shift your mindset onto those things. And so with that, my body has the energy. So I started implementing all of those things. I stayed consistent. I did the hard work. It was not always easy, and I did not see results as quickly as I wanted to, but I've been down that road, and so now I know how to get you results quicker. I will say that. It's not going to take you 2.5 years to get where you want to be. And I know now a few dietary nutritional changes that I had to make. I had to prune some things out in order to allow my gut and body to stop fighting the healing process and allow it to actually begin the healing process. And so mineral restoration is one step of that two-part process, but gut healing is the second part of that process. And so I spent many years not focusing on the gut health aspect, but now that I have that piece and I know how to implement it and I know how to integrate it with the mineral balancing piece, healing can happen so much faster. And I know how to help you cut down on inflammation. I know how to restore your gut with foods alone so that you're not spending hundreds of dollars on working with someone, plus on top of that having to buy supplements. And so not only that, but if I was to recommend 1,000 supplements to you, or even 5 or 10 supplements, it would turn you off really quickly. No one wants to swallow 10 pills a day. No one wants to remember to have to swallow all of that. And so for me personally right now, I take 3 pills and a little scoop of these like little pebbles. And then the rest of it is all something that I can sip on throughout the day. And the other 90% of it is making sure I get my nutrients through my food. And then 80% of our healing comes from mindset and dealing with trauma. 20% of it comes from the rest of the things we choose to do in our life. Okay. Like nutrition. On to the point of this podcast episode is to envision the woman that you want to become and then start making changes for that woman. And so one thing that I'm doing right now in my life, and I want to build a successful business. I want to work with clients and bring them the transformation that they want. But I also want to begin valuing myself as the businesswoman that I want to become. And so one of those things that I have been doing is, now that my body has the energy to get up, I have really been taking advantage of that and making sure I get dressed. I put on nice clothes. I dress myself as the CEO that I want to become. I'm dressing as though I was going into an office each day. I'm putting my makeup on. I'm curling my hair. I'm washing my hair. um, I'm still not washing my hair as much as I want to, but I'm like curling it and taking care of it and making sure that I am presenting myself as the woman I want to become. Now we're going to get down to the very piece and the practical advice that I want to give you as we wrap up this podcast episode, the action steps that you can take to get yourself to the healed version of who you want to become. And I just want to remind you that if you're listening to this and you began listening because the weary woman is what resonated with you, and here I am sharing about my healing journey and where I'm at now, I hope that that brings you hope and it doesn't set you back and cause you to look at, oh, I'm right here and it's going to take me so long to get where I want to go. Maybe it's just not even worth it to invest in myself. And I don't just mean financially, I mean like time wise, beginning to invest in yourself. But if you can just do 5% more for yourself and your healing journey today than you did yesterday, then you're on your way to becoming the woman that you want to become, the healed version of yourself that you want to become. And that is extremely important. There's nothing wrong with just starting with 5%. What 5% change can you make today? Everyone has to start somewhere. Little by little, change happens. But not only that, when change happens little by little, it becomes a lifestyle change that you take with you from here on out. It's not a quick fix. It's not this diet fad where you see a lot of women get on this diet fad and you see them lose the weight really quick, but then a year later, it's all back on. Number one, because they didn't actually heal the root cause of their hormone imbalance, their gut health issues, all the gut issues going on in general, and they didn't heal their mindset. They didn't heal the things that actually were causing the weight gain in the first place. And so everyone has to start somewhere. And I hope that you choose Rooted in Restored Wellness as your starting point, because I would love to help you walk that journey. Okay, so here are your action steps. Number one, you're going to visualize the person you want to become. Visualize her. Picture the version of who you want to be as the person who is healed, energized, and grounded in Jesus Christ. How does she carry herself? What does she wear? What does she eat? What does she prioritize? Envision that healed version of yourself and include as many details as you want, down to even what she wears, what she eats, and what she prioritizes. Number 2, pick one daily action. Do one small thing that she would do. So this is that 5%. Maybe it's putting on real clothes, making your bed, brushing your hair, going for a walk, or saying no to something that drains you. So you're going to pick that one small action and start implementing it. The third thing that I want you to do is to name your declaration. So whenever I name my declaration was I am victorious, you're going to create your own I am statement. And we do this when you work with me in the Rooted Restored Wellness program and we go through the bonus Made Whole Inner Healing course. This is in chapter 2 of what you go over. You go over creating these I am statements, but I have you specifically choose I am statements from different categories, and you choose which ones you truly don't believe about yourself. So if one of them is, for example, I am a daughter of the king, and you say, like, I don't really believe that. I don't believe I am royalty. Then you would circle that one, and that would be like a declaration that you declare over yourself so that you begin to shift your mindset from that unbelief into that belief so that you are increasing your faith and you're attacking the very area that you need healing in, because that's where your true breakthrough is. Okay. Like breakthroughs on the other side of those things where you recognize that's a fear or a lack of faith or something coming up against you. That's where the true breakthrough is. Other examples of these declaration statements are I am strong, I am clear, I am becoming whole. Something that pulls you towards healing instead of reminding you of the struggle that you're in. Okay. Remember, like, that's the whole point of the prophetic, is that we're shifting ourselves from the problem to God's perspective. We're just shifting the perspective into a faith-filled perspective. And then repeat it daily. That's your 4th action step, is to repeat it. Even if the feelings haven't come up yet, the consistency rewires your mind and your nervous system to match the truth. A lot of times that's what it takes. It takes like putting these things into action so that your head and heart become aligned. And that's usually where the struggle really is. It's like your head knows what it needs to do or knows what it wants to do, but the body is screaming at you like the little toddler. This is another thing that I teach, is that you have a body, a soul, and a spirit. Your body a lot of times will scream at you like a toddler. What does a toddler do? It just tells you, the toddler just tells you what it wants. It just communicates its needs, right? A little baby infant is born. It cries when it's hungry. It cries when it's poopy. Like, it just screams at you to tell you what it needs and wants. Okay. And sometimes you're just guessing, like, you're still screaming. I fed you. I changed your diaper. Why are you still screaming? Okay. There's something else that it needs, and it likely needs rest. Okay. That infant needs rest. And so when we feel like our bodies are screaming at us and we're all of a sudden acting like that little toddler and we don't know where these feelings came from or why we're lashing out or why we're screaming at everybody, it's because our physical body literally is in that place of screaming for rest and nourishment and for someone to take care of it. Okay. And so that's why you're going to repeat these things daily. And again, I'm here for you, and I'm excited to be doing this podcast. If you've made it all the way to the end, I want to remind you that I am also on YouTube now, not just as audio recording, but as video recording. So go to YouTube and watch me there. See my wonderful setup in my tiny little cabin where my phone is literally on my bed. This is my recording studio. My dresser is behind me, and I sit on a yoga ball. Because I don't have an office yet, although hopefully shortly before Christmas, sometime around Christmas, hopefully we will be getting into our new space, our new home that we're building, and I will have a lovely office space. I already know where I'm putting it. It's not really an office space. It's going to be in our bedroom still, but I will have the space to make it beautiful and luxurious and comfortable, and I won't have to sit on the yoga ball. Okay. Although the yoga ball's been fun. It's been fun, but my back does still hurt sitting on the yoga ball because the position and not having something to put my knees under because my bed's in front of me. Anyways, Thank you all for joining me. And I hope that this episode was super helpful on visualizing the woman that you want to become as the healed version of yourself, or whatever area of life that you're in. It can just be super helpful to help you set a goal. Goals are super important. If you're in that place where you're in such a place of burnout that it's hard to even think about a goal because it feels draining, it feels overwhelming, just remember to set your goals small and stop expecting too much of yourself in this season, because there are seasons that we go through where we need more attention, we need more rest, we need to prioritize saying no to things so that we can heal. Because the more that you don't do these things, the longer and more drawn out your healing is going to take. And so it's super important to remember those things. And I promise you, you can do it. You can do it. You can do the things, but it does come down to commitment and prioritizing and valuing yourself enough that you say, now it's my turn to heal. Now it's my turn to pour into me. Now it's my time to say no to all the things I've said yes to. And I don't just mean like sports and going to a friend's house and all the things. No, I'm talking about it's time to say no to your children when they interrupt a conversation. It's time to say no to picking up the trash that they left out on the table. It's time to prioritize finishing a task before you allow yourself to get sidetracked over here, even if your kids are the ones that need your attention. It's okay. They can learn patience. They can learn to turn to someone else, because it's your turn to focus on you. Because if you don't, not only will you go down, you're going to take everyone down with you. And that's extremely important. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm Cassie Hutton, your host of the Christian Wellness for the Weary Woman podcast. And if you are a weary woman who is ready to heal, reach out to me. My email is contact@cassiehutton.com. I would love to work with you.